see the problem that talks about where is it going to be undefined? The only thing you need to do when you see this type of problem, when it asks where it's undefined, is to look in the denominator and figure out what values of m are going to lead you to dividing by 0. Pay attention. So when you factor the denominator in this case, it factors down to 2m, is that right? 2m plus 3 and m plus, or m minus 2 minus 1. Okay, so if that's what the denominator factors into, then if m is 1, you divide by 0, it goes undefined. So m equals 1 would make it undefined because of this. 2m plus 3, if you set that equal to 0, you can see what value of m would give you 0. Subtract 3. 2m is negative 3, divide by 2. So m equal to negative 3 over 2 is your other value of m that would cause this to be undefined. It really doesn't matter the numerator. Even if there's something that reduces, those numbers in the denominator will cause it to be undefined. Now, it may be a point of discontinuity, or it may be an asymptote. But it's going to cause it to be undefined, either way. Number 2. When you need to simplify on division, make sure you flip and change it to multiplication. You have 3 over, or 12 over a squared plus b squared. So a squared plus b squared cannot factor. It looks like it could, but it can't. A squared minus b squared could, but a squared plus b squared can't. So the 12 and the 3 can reduce each other to 4 and 1, but the a plus b and the a squared plus b squared can't reduce each other, so it ends up being 4a plus 4b over a squared plus b squared. They look like they would have something in common, but they don't. Number 3, when you simplify, these are very similar, except for the opposite signs in the denominator. So what you can do is multiply either one by negative 1 over negative 1, which would make it m over m minus 5 minus negative 2 over m minus 5. So then you have the like terms in the denominator. So just do the subtraction. You have m minus a negative 2, be m plus 2, over m minus 5. That's where you'll stop. Number 4, we need to find the least common multiple between those two. If we factor it down, then the least common multiple needs to have every factor that shows up. And it needs to have the largest number of wherever, well, if it's like a p squared was the biggest one, you go with, but this one doesn't have one of those. This just factors down to 5 times p minus 4 and 15 times p minus 4. So they both have a p minus 4 as one of the factors. And then the least common multiple of 15 and 5 is 15. So that would be your least common multiple. Ends up with that. But the bigger number is a multiple of the smaller number. And so it becomes your least common multiple. Number 5, when you're looking for the asymptotes, you look for what's going to make it undefined, x equal to 1, and then you make sure that there's no factor of x plus 1 in the numerator. If there is, it's not going to be an asymptote, it's going to be point of discontinuity. But in this case, x squared plus 5x plus 6 factors to x plus 3 times x plus 2. So there's no x plus 1 factor in the or x minus 1 factor in the numerator. So that means that this, a value of 1 would cause, a positive 1 would cause it to have an asymptote at that point. On this, on number 6, if you're looking for a point of discontinuity, when you factor the denominator here, you get x plus 5 and x plus 1. So undefined would occur at -5 and -1. But one of those is a point of discontinuity, one of them is an asymptote. Since the x plus 5 is also in the numerator, that's your point of discontinuity. The x equal to -1 would be an asymptote. It wants to know the point of discontinuity, and that would be at x equals -5. A -5 would cause it to be undefined in the original problem, but when you simplified it, it went away. That's what makes the point of discontinuity. Number 7, when you put, we can see pretty clearly that we have an h value of -2. Move horizontally 2 to the left. It didn't move up or down, so we don't have a k. But if it moves to the left 2, that's a -2 direction, then you're looking for the opposite sign in the denominator, not b or d. So we're left with a and c, and the best thing you can do there is just to put it in the calculator, and you'll notice the difference would be when you put c in the calculator, it creates something like this, where the curves are in the top left and bottom right, and it's kind of opposite of what it should be. So A is the one that matches up. Numbers 8, y varies directly as x. So y equals kx. So if k would be equal to y over x, then that's what you're going to set up. Y over x equals y over x. And we have 4 -2. And we have unknown 30. So we cross multiply here to find the value of y we need. You get -60, I believe. Yep. Good. Number 9, if you didn't know the formula for the area of a triangle, and you've never learned it, then you can still do this problem. And if we pretend like we don't know that area, but if we want to set it up as a jointly, it would be k times b times h. And so k would be equal to area divided by base times height. And so that's the proportion we would set up. A over b times h equals a over b times h. And we know 75, 15, 10 for the first triangle. And we know, we don't know the area, but we know the base and height of the second triangle. So we can simplify now, or we can put it all in the calculator. 75 divided by 150 is a half. Equals area over 48. That's not it.
We can use calculation on decimal.
Yes. So if you multiply by 48, area is 24. If you knew the area was base times height divided by 2, you could do that a lot quicker. K was a half. So instead of base times height divided by 2, it's more like 1/2 base times height, where the K is a half. Number 11. 11's kind of weird because of the 10 gallons of fuel kind of throws us off. But it doesn't vary. That is not a variable, that is a constant. So if we know that the distance varies inversely with the speed, so the distance varies inversely with the speed. That's all we're told. It doesn't say it. It just says the gallons is constant. Then the K constant is equal to the distance times the speed. So if we set the two situations, distance times speed equal to distance times speed, and we know 300 miles, 50 miles an hour, and we need to know the distance for 60 miles an hour. And we just set that up and solve for D. You get 15,000 divided by 60, which comes out to 250, I think. But just go with what it says. It says it varies inversely with the speed. Distance varies inversely with the speed. So D equals K over S. If you solve that for K, it's ds. So you just set the two situations. D times S equals D times S. And solve for the unknown. Plug in, you'll know 3 of the 4. It should be A. Did I skip 10? Okay, let's go back. Okay, so number 10, y varies inversely as x. That means y equals k divided by x. Solving for k tells you how you need to set up the proportion of the two, how you can compare the two. To solve for k, you'd have to multiply by x. So x times y equals k. That means you'll set up x times y equal x times y. That's how you'll set the two equal to each other. We know x and y, 2 and 6. X is 6, y is 2. We need to find the y when x is 36. Six times 2 is 12 equals 36y. Divided by 36. Y equals 1/3.
We can put a link off to this.
Yes. Number 12. The quickest way to do a problem, well, in this one it's a little bit different. Let's go with, since we have a common denominator, that would be fine. So we just subtract n over n minus 4 from both sides. And that becomes 12 minus 5n over n minus 4. Still equal to n. Then we would multiply both sides by n minus 4, so we can get rid of this division, this fraction stuff. So those would cancel. I would have n squared minus 4n equals 12 minus 5n. And since I have a squared term, that tells me I'm probably going to have two answers, and I'm probably going to need to set this equal to 0 and factor. So n squared minus, let's see, add 5 into both sides, which plus n minus 12 equals 0. That factors into n, what? Minus 3 plus 4 equals 0, which means n equals positive 3 or n equals negative 4. Those are the numbers that would cause you to get 0. One more. How much time do I have? 3 minutes. I can do it in 3 minutes. Okay. So same situation here. One of our numbers is b equal to 0. That's going to cause it to be undefined. I need to add 1 over b to both sides. So I get 4, and pretend it's an equal sign. 4 equals 4 over b. 3 over b plus 1 over b is 4 over b. All right, now at this point, let's just try to stop and use a little bit of logic. What's the only thing b can be to get 4? 1. Thank you. So if you want to go through all the steps, okay, and divide by 4, and b equals 1, but if you could stop there and use a little bit of logic, you would already know that. So we go over here to the number line, put your numbers of 0 and 1 as the breaking points of these different intervals. And then we need to pick a number within each interval. Doesn't matter what they are, but they need to be within that interval. Test that number in the original inequality. So 4 minus 1 over negative 1. Is that less than 3 over negative 1? And that would be the same as 4 plus 1 less than negative 30. Is 5 less than negative 30? No. Incorrect. That's false. Okay? False. So let's go to the middle. If you divide by a half, another thing you need to try to remember, it'll make it a little bit easier, is if you divide by a half, it's the same as multiplying by 2. So in this middle, 1 divided by a half is like 1 times 2. So 4 minus 2, is that less than 3 times 2? 2 is less than 6, that's true.